Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We can take our seats. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I don't know if people heard me online say, come to shul, and some of you came, or some of you just magically came, but it's nice. We filled up a little bit, so it's nice to see you. And if you live near Weinberg, you can still get here. So this week, the Parashat is Yitro, which is the name of Moses' father-in-law, who the Parsha begins with his father-in-law coming, escorting Moses' wife Zipporah and his two children, Gershon and Eliezer, to join Moses and the rest of the Israelites who at this point have reached the base of Mount Sinai. The Torah doesn't give us a lot of details about why Zipporah and Moshe aren't together already. We know that Moshe meets Zipporah when he flees Egypt and goes to stay in Midian for a while. And we can assume that perhaps he leaves her and the boys with his father-in-law when he goes to Pharaoh to try to liberate the Israelites. Maybe that would have been dangerous for them or something like that. So we can sort of fill in the blanks there with relative ease. But it's interesting that when the Torah describes this reunion, what do we imagine? If we're writing the story, what are we focusing on in this reunion? Who's reuniting? The wife and the husband and the children, right? This family coming back together, right? So we imagine the Torah might say, and Moses embraced his wife and kissed his children, right? No, it's not there. The reunion is between Moses and Yitro. Moses runs out to welcome his father-in-law. He embraces him. They kiss each other's cheeks. They ask, how have you been? And they start talking about the leadership of their different communities, and they walk off like pals into the tent. And we actually don't hear a peep about Zipporah and the children, other than that was the reason for Yitro joining them. So presumably they're there, but it's missing. That part of the story is missing. We never hear about Moshe's reunion with his own family. So there are lots of places in the Torah. This isn't the only place in the Torah, right, where there's a piece of the story that's missing, that's sort of noticeably absent, where we wonder about what happened here? Why isn't this person's perspective shared? Or that seems like a weird part of the story to leave out. Or whatever happened to that character? And there are lots of different answers for why the Torah is that way. And there are lots of positive things that we do when we're confronted with those absences. It gives us the opportunity to read our own imaginations, our own interpretations into Torah, to write or read or study beautiful midrashim, right, the rabbinic interpretations that answer those questions. So it's not necessarily always a bad thing that there are these missing parts, right? But I think that it also, when Torah leaves things out, there's also an opportunity for us to reflect on what parts of other people's stories do we not know? What parts of our own stories do we share? And what parts do we hold back? And when we're engaging with other people in the world, what do we really know? And what's missing? And why? And what do we do about it, right? And what kinds of assumptions do we make about other people when there's pieces missing? how do we fill those pieces in, either subconsciously or intentionally? A little example, right? I'm someone who gets easily annoyed when I'm driving and somebody else is driving badly, right? Somebody cuts me off, or they're speeding or something. And my go-to, my assumption in that moment of sort of frustration or maybe even fear because I felt endangered, so I go to this place of, who is this person and why are they so rude, or why aren't they following the rules? But I also know, when I'm not in the heat of the moment, right, that actually there are lots of reasons that people might be driving erratically. Maybe somebody's sick and they're trying to get to a hospital. Maybe someone's having a really bad day and they're not paying attention. I don't know. It's missing from the information I have, from the story that I'm experiencing. And I have the opportunity, right, to read into it, either to give that driver the benefit of the doubt and say, shame, maybe that person's having a really hard time. Maybe they didn't mean to endanger other people, or maybe they feel terrible that they've just endangered other people. Or I can just decide that they're a horrible person and a horrible driver and feel yucky and go through my day feeling yucky because that's how I chose to interpret this moment. So I think our lives are filled with those moments where we pass a homeless person on the street, where we're frustrated with a waiter or a waitress, where we are sitting in shul with someone that we see week after week, but we don't really know them. How are we going to fill in those gaps? Either by finding generosity within us to write a beautiful midrash into the life of that other person, or by trying to get to know them, by asking questions, by reaching out. So I think there's a really beautiful invitation in this parsha for us. Even with people we think we know really well, there's always some piece that we don't know. And that can be a barrier, or it can be an opportunity. Shabbat Shalom. So even when we don't know the whole story, we often know, or we know each week, that there are people in our communities that are in need of healing of body, mind, or spirit. The words for the blessing for healing is on page 371 in the middle of the page.